Slack tail squad, assemble.
All right. So it's been a pretty rough week for me. I don't know how everybody else is feeling. How about you? How's things been going, Ronz?
Same way, kind of a rough week, but got to barrel through it.
Yeah.
I feel like my week's
At least
been,
it's getting warmer.
my week's been pretty the same. I don't think it's been any. I guess it's the normal amount of roughness.
No highs, no lows.
No, not so much.
Oh, well, that's good then.
That's real good.
Yeah. I guess then the Rons and I are unique then.
Or maybe I'm unique since there's two of you and one of me.
Yeah, nothing like a mediocre podcaster.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of podcast, this is the Slaptail Nation, and we are podcasting. And I'm in Beaver Den 2. Beaver Den 2. This is actually the walk-in closet in my bedroom. This the Swan and I share. I like Beaver Den subset 1 better, but you can hear the Swan and I, so I've moved. Someday the Rons, I really want to soundproof that little room. I think it'd be pretty awesome.
I think so too. I mean, what would you use to soundproof it then?
Well, they sell those panels that you can get, and there's plenty of YouTube videos that can tell you, where, because in your mind you're like, oh, I have to put panels up all over through the whole thing, but really it's specific to what space you're in. Like you might have to put it up high, wherever the sound, I guess, projects. But definitely, you've been in the office, and I don't know if you noticed where the closet is. There's a little pocket door there, but I would definitely want to have some sort of drop down panel that I could put on the inside and then on the outside also. Because right now I just drop a blanket over it, but you can still hear Swan and I talking. So it will, if I yell, it kind of gets picked up a little bit on her mic. So this way we're separated out. She's at one end of the house and I'm at the other end of the house.
What I find hilarious is I agree with your idea of what you want to do, but that you would yell at the Swans.
He's usually yelling at you.
That's why he mentioned my name when he says, I'm you. When I yell at the Swan, I sound just exactly like you.
He said when I yell. He didn't say when I yell at the Swan. I'm just saying when I yell. He said when I yell, you can hear it through the Swan's mic.
Speaking of yelling at the Swan, maybe just get a little slightly closer to the mic, but just by scooting your chair as opposed to just leaning your head in. You don't have to do this where you just keep leaning your head in.
I'm working on my hump.
Scoot the chair. Yeah, that's a funny one.
Let's hear about that. Can we hear about it?
Well, hold on, real quick. You're right.
Hold on. I didn't even introduce my number 2. Oh, this is the Slaptail Squad, and you are members of the great Slaptail Nation. And thank you for being with us. I am the Beaveman, your humble president, Lord, Savior, God, Master of the Universe, President, and whatever other accolade I can give myself. And then joining me, of course, is my dependable, trustworthy, bulbous, pale, a little bit pink. Number 2, the Ronz. For a minute there, he didn't know who I was introducing. It's the Ronz.
No, I did. I didn't. And I stand corrected. Yeah, when you yell at me, it comes through the Swan's mic. So I take that back. You are correct. Yeah, great. A shout out to, of course, I don't want to forget our other fourth member who's not here is Tremonde. Usually he's here. But due to unforeseen circumstances or foreseen circumstances.
Unforeseen? He's got dad duty. How is that unforeseen?
Well, I don't want to go too much into his background because, that's personal to him. But, most people that, have kids on the weekend, they want to keep them out of the limelight. So I was going to bring that up. But since you...
Yes, we don't want to thrust the child into fame too quickly.
Yes. Yeah.
We don't have to go to her head and all of a sudden she's one of those, later on, 20 years later, she's one of those kids who was a child star and things didn't go well for him. Yeah.
I think that happens
a lot.
Another
Danny Bonaducci.
For kids. iCarly, or the one who's Samantha from iCarly, she didn't want to be a child star. Like, she has stories that she didn't want to be.
They've both done pretty good, though. They're both well-adjusted adults, is my understanding. So that's good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Sounds good to me. I've never seen too many. There are some people that didn't turn out so well.
Danny Bonaducci.
Mm-hmm. Who did you know is a black belt?
Yes, don't you remember when he was getting all pissed off so much at everybody, and that was his tough guy thing? He like challenged Howard Stern to a fight and all this other stuff, and Howard Stern's like, I'm not a fighter.
I
Good
think
for you and your black belt.
no, I think Howard Stern is also a black belt in Shotokan Karate.
I do not think so.
He mentioned it at one point.
He's a lover. He's a lover, not a fighter.
Oh,
It must be a rather recent occurrence then in the past 10 years or so.
Are
Who
you going
knows?
to introduce me? I feel a little left
Also with
out.
us today is the beautiful Swan and her appendage and her illegitimate child that she carries, the Swan. Say hello, Swan.
Hello, Swan.
Or would you like your independent party that you carry around with you to say hi also?
It doesn't talk yet. It's in utero.
It's in utero. It is utero.
Yes, it is.
It's not
It
in
is.
utero.
It is utero. I mean,
There's
it's
some
still
funny
in
stories.
utero.
We got some funny stories. Tell Ronz that funny story, and then I'll tell my funny story.
Which funny story? About
Why are you carrying something around in utero?
Oh,
yeah. I mean, are you going to prison and you need to put it in your prison pocket?
I don't think people put shit in their uterus to go to prison. They put it up their vent. How does it get to their uterus, Ronz? It had to bust open the cervix and get there.
You know, I don't know. I've just watched a lot of shows on the internet.
I'm just letting you know that it does not end up in their
I think
uterus.
that Ronz is correct. You could smuggle stuff in your uterus.
You could, technically.
I mean, it's only the size. I mean, it's really only the size of a pear, generally speaking, or smaller. But if you have it's like when the rare occasion when they taught me how to place an IUD, you use a little tool that's called called a sound to die. It's like this little metal kind of spoon shaped, not
coat hanger.
Exactly. No, it's just a little stimulating tool. So if you had one of those, if you had some way to stimulate the cervix, theoretically you could put something up there. I don't know how much fun you would have trying to get it out because you'd have to leave some sort of a string to pull it out, just like they do with the IUD. So they're still going to find it, Ronz. Have you seen people try to actually I mean, are you talking vaginally or are you talking actually in the cervix, in the uterus itself?
Vaginally. I mean, it's, just from the documentaries I've seen and how they smuggle things into prison, I figure pretty much Swan's headed for prison and she needs a shank or something.
That's true.
Now, Ronz, you know where the vagina is located.
Where is it located? Can you tell me?
It's the middle hole, Ronz. The middle hole.
It's the middle hole. So there are actually middle holes.
There's 3 holes. There's 3 holes. Believe it or not, I had a patient who did not know that, who was in over 50, probably over 60, who did not know that she had 3 holes. That's pretty interesting.
I didn't know that either.
But anyways.
Okay.
So do you want to hear about McMuffin or not?
I do, but
it's a copyrighted name. I know we're probably going to get in trouble for that. But
yeah, I really feel like you should change the name.
I don't want to change the name. I mean,
name it to
the daughter named it
McStuffin.
Gerald McStuffin.
Okay.
What is that?
McLovin.
No, from the
what movie
from
was
the
that
movie.
From? That kid was calling himself McLovin.
No, from the Coming to America movie. What is his something or McDowell's? And they had the whatever. It was not a McMuffin. It was a Mc something. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway,
that was there's an interesting story about that. But let's get on with your story.
My story is I've been having this kind of pelvic pressure pain for a while, and I know that I've
Beaveman, way to go!
Yeah,
way to go, Beaveman!
Straight up to the cervix, straight up, right into the uterus on a daily basis.
Man, way to go!
So for a while, and I went to my doctor, had an ultrasound done, and I have a fibroid that is bigger than a grapefruit in my uterus. So gigantic. That's just disgusting. I can feel it. You can, if I lay down, you can see it. It's gross.
All kidding aside, are you going to be okay?
Yes, I have to have it surgically removed in the future, the near future. Not really looking forward to that because I don't want to have surgery. Freaks me out. I think it's worse when you're medical and you know what they actually do to you when they put you under and the chances of you not making it through. I mean, not that I guess according to everything, a hysterectomy is the second most popular surgery done on a daily basis, but it's still frightening. Not really looking forward to it. Pretty sure I don't want to spend the night in the hospital. I'm definitely not looking forward to that. I asked my doctor if I could go home that day. He said absolutely not, but usually people stay 3 days, and I'm working on him to let me go home the next day, We'll see if I actually can do that physically.
Okay.
It's going to be dependent on if I'm in pain or if I can go to the bathroom and all the things that you have to do after surgery.
Okay, so are they going to, and please forgive me, I don't know, are they going to insert something inside you to take it out, or are they going to cut you open?
So there's a couple different ways they can do it. They can do
This is
it
fun. It's a fun
laparoscopically.
conversation.
Yeah. They can do it laparoscopically, but mine's too big, so they have to cut it. Like it's basically like a C-section.
Okay.
I'm gonna give birth here soon to
Okay,
McMuffin.
so when you're all healed up, are you going to get a tattoo of the scar?
No, the tattoo is gonna be below my bikini line. So no, I'm not
The
getting a tattoo
or the
there.
scar?
The scar. Sorry, not. I mean, I guess I can get a little lawnmower. Remember those? Remember people who got that? I'm like, that is such the dumbest tattoo in the world. But anyway. Okay.
You could get a tattoo that has arrows pointing down that says "closed for business."
Yeah. Or
it's
arrows up
like,
that says "insert dick here" or "insert here."
Why would arrows be up?
I had a lady when I was doing a pelvic exam one time. She had it on her inner thigh. It said "insert cock here," with arrows.
Right, but
I'm like, that's
but your scar will
I
be
know,
above.
I know.
So you would
I'd
have
have an arrow
arrows pointing
down.
up.
No, I'd have an arrow
okay.
down. I mean, I guess if you wanted to put it in my belly button.
or you could draw, have a little tattoo that says "third hole here." You know.
I think it'd be more likely that you get something that says "out of stock."
Yes. You're dumb. You're dumb. That's not nice.
Closed for business.
Closed for business.
Closed for business. Out of stock. I think that one's good. Out of stock.
And people will be like,
Speaking
what does
of,
that mean?
she said that it was the size of a grapefruit. There's a comedian. His name is Gary Gulman, and he does this thing where he talks about how much he loves grapes and grapefruits. He said, and I'm paraphrasing, but I think one of the lines he said was, the only thing that's important about the grapefruit is that God created the grapefruit so doctors would have something to compare the size of what your baby's going to be. Otherwise, it's completely useless.
Grapefruits are delicious.
You really have to listen to it. It's genius. Have you ever heard his little comedy routine where he talks about the grapefruit runs?
No, I don't think I have.
It's pretty old clip, but he basically he rants it. His whole thing is he just starts off talking about how much he loves grapes and what a masterpiece the grape is, and then he goes into he's like, what's not a masterpiece is the grapefruit, because basically they trick you with a name.
Yeah, like
it's a really good bit.
Yeah. It's a lot of work to eat a grapefruit.
Fruit salad.
It's a lot of work to eat a grapefruit. Just saying.
Well, it's definitely for you. It's a lot of work to eat one and not sound disgusting.
He makes fun of me because I dissect it and peel it and pick all the skin off of it.
So when you do that to a grapefruit, is that the medical side or the OCD side?
I don't know. It's just
That dissection is a gross dissection. It's not even a very.
It's not a surgical dissection at all. It's.
Have you seen which one is it? One of the Lord of the Rings where Schmiegel's eating the fish. And he's like ripping the fish apart.
No, I haven't. But continue.
Oh, well, Schmiegel's like eating a fish and it sounds disgusting. He's just ripping into it and tearing it apart and stuff. That's what it sounds like when the Swan is eating a grapefruit. And actually, I call her Gollum when she's eating the grapefruit. And she's eating it. She's like, oh, my precious.
Cool.
It's so disgusting. I can't. As I get older, I told you, as I get older, I can't hear people eat.
He told me I can only eat them at work.
I told him we should just honestly, and it's not just her. I mean, hers is the most disturbing sounds when she eats.
Because my jaw
it's everybody.
Yeah.
So, that brings me up to a certain thing that I suffer from is, do you have certain noises that annoy you? Well,
the sound of Ron's voice. Hey-o.
Oh, the hey-o. Right. But do you have, it's almost like an OCD thing, but when I hear certain noises, they just drive me crazy, and I try to avoid them.
Like what?
What?
When someone's taking a bite with their fork, right? They're eating something when they're using the fork, and they scrape it across their teeth.
I hate that too. Yeah.
Yeah, that's terrible.
Right?
Well, you know what my son does, and he insists he doesn't do it?
What's that?
When he chews, a lot of times you can hear his teeth click.
Yes.
Like they'll hit each other. That drives me crazy.
Oh, stop clanking your teeth together.
He's, you know what? The boy might listen to this, friend of the show, the boy, Skylar, but he has just lots of horrible habits. Yes. He's always done that. He's had these horrible habits since he was a little kid. And we're like, why does he do that? Why does he do that? Ronz, he used to do this thing. I'm not kidding.
Okay.
He was the cutest my son, I swear to God, it's documented. Look it up in Google. Cutest little boy. Skylar will come up. he was the cutest little thing, but he had just the most annoying habits. There was a period of time there for like a year where just there would be silence and he would go, mm, just like that
Yep.
Okay.
for no reason. And so I'm like, is he fucking retarded or
Like,
something?
does he have a tick? Like, we
Is there
seriously
some weird
Sort of like a Tourette's syndrome.
something?
Yeah. And I was like, that's really bizarre. And I would ask him, like, dude, why are you doing that? Doing what? What am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing.
Mhm.
He's real little. So we actually took him to like a child psychologist. I'm like, why the fuck is he doing this? And they're like, no, it's just a thing.
You're like,
Kids
don't
just
make
do
a big
weird
deal
things."
out of it. He'll grow out of it. And
He'll
grow
he
out of it.
did, but he replaced it with a new habit.
He replaces it. He's like, I'm just going to chew my fingernails for the next 30 years.
Till I got braces, and then I couldn't chew them anymore.
Well, he got
Yeah.
TMJ. That was
Yeah.
what- And I told him that's why he had TMJ. I'm like, that's why you have it, dude, because you chew your freaking fingernails.
That's the other thing. When you bring this up is that when their kids don't develop or as fast as other kids do, why do parents rush to take them to doctors to get them checked?
Well, I mean, when
know-
your kid's 7 and he's not wiping his own ass yet, it's probably time to take him to the
Okay,
doctor
I
once.
understand that part, but when they have nothing to say, it's like, oh, he's just being silent, and you got the one hypochondriac parent who rushes in and like, we need to get him checked out for anything.
Well, the reason why is I think it's a couple different things. One is people your age, my age, older than us, even the Swan's age, their parents didn't take them to taking your kid to the doctor was actually really not that common for stuff.
Yeah,
So
you
they're like,
had to
oh,
be
they
really
they just
sick.
ignored everything. And when you ignore everything, actually you're missing a lot of developmental delays in children. So if you have a kid, for example, that doesn't maybe doesn't talk that much and they're just like, oh, he's just quiet. Well, a lot of times actually that's not the case. A lot of times they might have a speech impediment or they might not hear so well or something like that. So now it's the reverse. So now we actually encourage people, pediatricians do it. Like if there's something abnormal, bring your kid in, because it's much better for you to bring them in and for us to say, for a pediatrician to say, oh no, they're doing fine, as opposed to you missing something 2 years later and then your kid has a hard time in school because maybe they don't hear so well or maybe they don't comprehend speech so well or whatever.
Or worse
So
is they
I don't
are growing and they're not walking, and then all of a sudden they can't walk because they've grown and now they have to have surgery to be able to walk, like because there's something wrong with their bones or something.
I guess I've never seen a case like that, but I'm kind of old school where I grew up, and I agree with what you said. Is like, you didn't go to the hospital unless you're sick, right? So these developmental issues happened, right?
Yeah, the
Of
Beaveman
course.
almost died because his parents didn't take him to the doctor.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you don't know that story, Ronz?
No, I
You don't
do
know that
not.
story?
I mean, here you were, this kick-ass army guy, right? This kick-ass podcaster, and you beat death.
A lot
I
of
wanna hear
times,
this.
actually. The
I've beat
Beaveman's.
death at least 4 times would be my guess.
You
Okay,
made
let's
death
start
your
start out.
bitch.
Let's hear them. Rattle them off, or give us a little story
Okay, the
about
first
them.
time I beat death.
Yes.
Death, I have beat several times. His buddy, his counterpart, Pain, is actually a friend of mine.
Pain's
So I
kicking
haven't,
your
I haven't
ass.
beat him. He is not kicking my ass. He is a friend of mine that I know very well. No, the first time was I
Oh,
woke up this morning.
yes.
I woke up one morning, Ronz, and I didn't feel
Mhm.
quite right. You know
How
how
old were
sometimes
you?
after you shower and you don't feel that clean down there, even after no, it's a totally different story.
No, no, no.
No,
Was there a large-sized grapefruit there?
no, no. I woke up and I just had this off feeling, and I had this craving for a jelly donut. And I was
Okay,
15
that's
years
not
old.
weird, but
He was
okay.
15 years old. Okay.
I was 15 years old, so I kind of just told my parents, I'm like, something doesn't feel quite right, whatever. They're like, whatever, go to school. So I go to school, and I felt off all day. And I even mentioned it to a couple of my teachers. I was just like, I just have this weird feeling, and I have these weird, I'm just craving a jelly donut all day. And I was actually talking to my art teacher about it. She's like, well, I really hope you get your jelly donut today. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then we were supposed to, and the Beaveman was a band geek, so he played in the band. And he was supposed to have pep band that night where we played for the during the basketball game. And by the end of the school day, I felt really bad. I had like this pain above my belly button, and it didn't feel good at all. Went home, and I was supposed to go back to band at like 7:00 that night, and I didn't go. And I never missed band. And I told my parents, I'm like, I don't feel good. I feel terrible. And of course, they're like, you're fine. Go to bed, whatever. Like, okay. So I'm in bed this whole time, just feeling like shit. And I get up and I tell my parents before, like at 9 o'clock, I'm like, I still feel terrible. They're like, okay, whatever, you're fine. So then at like 11 o'clock, and now I've been having sweats and fevers and stuff like that. I felt really good. I mean, I felt great. And my parents were still awake. And I was like, hey, I feel great. And they're like, good, you're fine. See, we told you were fine. I'm like, no, I feel great. I didn't just feel good. I felt great.
Okay.
Like excellent. Like better than
Understand.
I
Like he's
felt in a
high right
while.
now.
Like I felt really good. And they're like, see, we told you you're fine.
You-
So I went back to bed. And at probably like 1 o'clock in the morning, I woke up and just felt the need to go to the bathroom, but I was also in excruciating pain and I could not stand. I actually rolled out of the bed and crawled to the bathroom on my hands and knees to go to the bathroom, crawled back to the bed, was never able to get up. And then the next day, I couldn't get out of bed. My mom like had to work that day and she checked on me and she's like, oh, you'll be fine. Just drink some tea. Your dad will make you some tea. My father, first of all, is the worst caregiver in the world. You should never let my father watch children in general, even when he was a dad and that was his job. Terrible caregiver.
You mean
He
the
checked
wait
on me like a couple times.
didn't bring you tea? Like
You
He
mean
did bring me tea.
he gave you a fork and told you to go play with a light socket? That kind of
Right,
terrible
pretty
dad.
much.
basically.
Well, I could not straighten up. This should have been a warning sign to them. I could not straighten up. The only position that I could be in where I wasn't in excruciating pain was with my knees up to my chest.
Like
So in
fetal
other words, the fetal
position.
position.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had high fevers, sweats, all this stuff. And then finally, I think probably around 3 or 4 o'clock, because he'd called my
So
mom,
this
I
is
guess, a couple
2 days
times.
later. 2.5 days
It's not
later.
2 days. It's over 24 hours.
Okay,
Because
over
I started
24
feeling
hours.
bad in the morning the day before.
Okay.
So by now it's been like 30 hours or something
Okay.
like that. And so I guess he'd call my mom. My mom's like, well, you should take him to the doctor or an emergency room or something. So instead, my dad went to this prompt care, right? And of course, you go to a prompt care. We waited over an hour to be seen. Not uncommon because, they don't triage people. And then they put me in a room. I waited there forever. And I'm in the fetal position this whole time. The guy comes in. I don't know if he was a doctor, PA, whatever it was. He
Janitor.
literally just looked at me. All he did was look at me and told my dad, you need to take your son to the emergency room. He is very sick.
He was the
And
janitor.
my dad's like, yeah. And my dad's like, okay, well, what's wrong with him? And he's like, so he asked me a couple questions and he's like, okay, I'm going to do a rectal exam on your son. Did a rectal exam. I'm to this day still not sure why, unless he thought I had like blood in my abdomen. And he said, I'm 90%, whatever, 100% sure that your son has ruptured his appendix.
Wow.
He's like, you have to take him to the emergency room right now. If you don't take him to the emergency room, he's going to die.
And your dad's like,
My
can
dad's
I
like-
stop and get a burger on the way?
And he's like, just up the road, Speeds, best burgers, whatever. So he's like, no, take him to the emergency room. So he takes me to the emergency room, and they get me all processed in. Very obviously, I'd ruptured my appendix. Called the surgeons in. So I got surgery that night at like 11 o'clock. So from the time my appendix ruptured, what the predicted time was, till the time I had there was nothing for them to remove. It was ruptured. They had to go in and clean out the cavity and all that other stuff. Was over 24 hours. And the surgeon straight up told my mom and dad, like, your son should have died hours ago. You're lucky he didn't die. You should never let this sort of thing go like this again.
Do you have another
Basically.
couple kids at home? Please don't let this happen.
Don't
to
let that
them.
happen to them. Don't let that happen to them. So yes, that was time number one that I cheated death.
Okay, so let me expand on that. Were you one of those children that were prone to saying, "My stomach hurts. I don't want to go to school"?
No, we went to school whether we were sick or not.
So okay,
You could be bleeding from your ears and you were not going to go see the doctor. My mom always says that she took us to the doctor a lot, and she actually did not. That's not what happened. What would happen was we had an old school doctor. He delivered us. He was our family doctor, whatever. She would call him and he would tell her what to do. So we rarely ever went to the doctor. So because of that, you don't complain as an adult anyway. So you're like, oh, I don't complain. I never went to the doctor as a kid. But I'm different with my children. I mean, they don't go either because, well, they can just ask me stuff and I can work them up really quick and say whether or not they need to go or not.
Well, I guess
But that's different than my mother who worked at J.C. Penney's and my father who was an electrician.
Well,
That's
the benefit
totally
of having two parents in the medical field versus J.C. Penney's, I mean, you know what to look out for, especially with what Swan said earlier, going in for surgery, which is necessary for her, but she knows, her attitude. And correct me if I'm wrong, is that I know what goes on behind the scenes. Please don't touch me.
And I know how many times they fuck shit up, so I'm afraid to death. Like, as a patient, one time I had to get antibiotics for strep throat, and this lady came in and she was gonna give me a shot, and I'm like, they ordered that IV. So she's like, oh, let me just mix that up real quick. Well, the medicine that you mix it up when you give it for a shot is lidocaine. But she was just going to push that lidocaine into my IV. You can't do that. That's going to give you a cardiac arrhythmia.
A heart arrhythmia, a cardiac arrhythmia.
I'm like, hello, you don't need to go redraw that up because you mixed it with lidocaine. You can't push that in my IV. That's ridiculous. And I know that. But if I was an 80-year-old grandma who wasn't medical, she could have just killed me.
So, which leads me to a next question. As you walk into these places, and of course, do they know you're in the medical field?
Nope, I never give that information away.
So, okay. Then, do they question your ability to read the situation then?
No, afterward. Well, I mean, you advocate for yourself afterwards, but you don't tell them that because then they assume you're a know-it-all. Or they treat you differently. So you just go in like you're a normal person.
So how do they treat
what
you?
I like to do is I like to set them up. When they fuck it up.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I think that's what the Swan is doing.
When they fuck it up, I bring it up and I'm like, this. And then they try to get all shitty. I'm like, well, okay, actually it's doctor and blah, blah, blah.
So when you drop that truth bomb on them, how do they react then?
Some of them try to defend themselves, and get shitty, like they know more than you. But
so with this lidocaine fiasco, we'll call it, after you drop the knowledge on what you do, how do they change their attitude or change their situation?
She redid it, but I'm like, you don't want to give that to me IV push because it's got lidocaine in it. And she's like, oh yeah, you're right. Like she covered it, like, oops,
almost killed you.
Oops, yeah, almost killed me. It's cool. But no. So death cheating number 2.
Well, so the concentration
like
is different, the chances are good that you would not have died.
No, but still, you're not even supposed to give it IV push. You're supposed to mix it and give it IV piggyback, like as an infusion, not a straight up med. But anyway.
Not the lidocaine.
The Rocephin, yeah.
Yeah, but we're talking about the lidocaine.
Yes, but either way, she was going to make
lidocaine. You do give IV for a cardiac arrest. For cardiac arrest, you give it
right,
but the concentration.
Yeah, it's like a lot more milligrams. But anyway,
so whatever.
Anyway, yeah. So how'd you cheat death number 2?
Well, who cares? That's not what we're talking about.
Okay. Well,
I mean, how many stories do I need to talk about cheating death?
I don't know.
Well,
I guess you don't need to at all.
It goes back to what I was saying earlier. You're a badass. No, so I mean, when you cheat death like that, I mean, with all that,
either that or God just doesn't want him yet.
That's my theory.
The
second, what was it? The second time that I cheated death. The second time I cheated death, my brother, who's a Baptist minister, said to me,
"Amen."
He's like, I really feel like you survived because God has a greater purpose for you. And of course, in my head, I was trying to be nice and stuff, and I was like, oh yeah, you're probably right. But in my head, what I really thought was, no, God doesn't want me.
Satan's just not come around for you yet.
Like, God doesn't want me, and that's why I lived.
Oh, and maybe the devil is punishing you. This is part of your punishment. That's why you're not down there either.
Yeah, you're like, because hell for him won't be bad enough. Let's let him continue where he is. Yes. I can't come up with a worse torture for him than he's already going through.
So on a theology note, though, some people think right now this is hell. So
I would agree. I tend to agree with a lot of that personally. No, but this brings me to the hump story, Ronz.
Oh, yeah.
The hump story. Do you want to hear the hump story?
Yeah, sure. I'm all about that.
We're sitting there the other day. Now, I think that a lot of tall people do this, first of all, for one thing. as if I know because I'm not tall, but I've noticed this with a lot of tall people that I know because everybody that I do a certain thing with are all taller than me.
Well, and
And I
tall
think that when
girls
they're
do it
around
too.
me, I think that when they're around me, they try to make themselves smaller. Like subconsciously, I think that they don't try to like look like they tower over me. And I wonder if that's what the boy does also. But I think a lot of it also has to do with their generation of, their heads are always down because of their phones. So we're like in the kitchen the other day, and the boy's talking to me, and he was, what's the term? He was perpendicular to me, basically our stance, different planes. So he's standing sideways, and I'm looking at him dead on.
And he's in a
Okay,
relaxed, just standing there, normal position for him. Like
just
it's not
talking
like
and
he's
chatting.
like awkwardly standing or anything. He's just standing there. Yeah.
He's just standing there, and I look at him and I say, "Son, you really need to work on your posture. You have a hump.
No,
You
you
have a
gave him the
dowager's
technical. There
hump."
you go. You give him the technical term, and he's like, "What's that?"
I said, I have like the junction of your neck, which is the cervical spine, and where it meets your chest or your upper back, which is the first ribs, where that meets your thoracic spine. That junction is hypertrophied or it's enlarged because his head is always down, and which gives you the impression that he actually has a hump. So I'm like,
Has anybody ever corrected him on his posture?
oh, I have lots of times, but I wonder. But I think a lot of it is, like I said, is one. I see a lot of patients like that already that are young because they're always looking down at their cell phones. And so there's actually people out there that theorize that if we stay on the track that we're on right now with our kids and the next generation after them, that our bodies will actually evolve to be in that tilted head forward position. Because and it's not a great evolution, but it is there. It's actually where they think that our
Like this,
skeletal
Ronz.
spine will go.
Can you see it?
Oh, okay, sort of like a giraffe.
So because his head is tilted, because there's a curve, there's
Yeah.
a natural S curve to our cervical spine. It's supposed to bow out, and they start to straighten it. And because he's doing it, that junction of the cervical and thoracic spine, there looks like there's a hump there. And I'm like, dude, you have a hump. So then he's all mad because
He's like, "You ruined my
know,
life. You've just cut my self-esteem forever." He's like, "I'm just gonna go in my room and die." Like,
Well,
for real.
can that be corrected though over time?
yeah, my
Again?
posture.
Yeah.
Yeah, literally. I told him, I said, look how I stand and look how you stand. It's two different things. I'm like, my head is always over my shoulders. It doesn't do this. It doesn't lean forward. It doesn't bend forward or anything like that. And this is something that I remind myself of all day long. I remind myself to do this and to roll my shoulders back and drop them down because I think there's a couple reasons why I do it. One, I know that I do it because I was in the Army and they harped on our posture a lot. They're like, this is how you look soldierly. This is how to look in formation. This is how to stand. But I also know it's because I broke my neck, and I know that a head forward posture, it actually makes my muscles of my upper back and my neck tighten down too much, and that causes increased pain. So, and it pulls your skeletal spine.
So, Ronz, I have a question for
way.
you because it's
Yeah. What's your question?
when you sit in your car, does your head touch the headrest when you drive?
Occasionally.
So then you have
Also,
poor
if I hit my
posture.
brakes real quick, I slam forward and slam back. But yeah,
No,
occasionally.
so that Beaveman brought that up one time that our heads are supposed to hit the headrest. So that means if you're sitting back in proper posture, I mean, not gangster leaning your seat or anything, but if it's all like in
Gangster
proper,
leaning?
yeah, like
What's
sitting
that?
all way back and slouched and hunched and whatever. But
We're not familiar with that term, Swan. What is
Yeah,
gangster? I'm sorry.
I was looking at
everybody knows what that means.
What does that mean exactly?
The pimp lean, whatever. I don't know.
Oh, I'm not familiar with the term pimp lean.
All seat back and looking like a thug. There you go.
What's a thug look like?
Whatever, Ronz.
Yeah.
But anyway, your head is supposed to touch your headrest.
I tell patients that all the time. I said, and to prove my point, when you're in the passenger seat of the car and you're riding down the road, look at other cars at the drivers. If you can see their head very prominently in the driver window, they have improper posture. Your head, because your head should be back touching the headrest. But you'll see a bunch of turtles driving. Their heads are tilted forward like this, which is
Well,
not good for your half the people with neck and back pain. The reason why they have upper back and neck pain a lot is posture.
I see that in little old ladies driving their cars, or I should say,
Well, that's because
older people.
they
They
have
gotta move the seat
osteoporosis.
forward.
Well,
And
I don't think that. They just can't see over the steering wheel, so that all you see is 2 pairs of knuckles and probably a forehead,
A little head.
a little head. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, I am conscious occasionally. I'll say occasionally on my posture and how I should sit. Right, and I often tell my son, "Hey, straighten up your posture a bit." And and I'll even go so far as bringing into martial arts, even though we're all practitioners of it. Is that posture is key to, no matter what style you're in, to helping you stay balanced. It also exudes confidence, right? Right. If you want to see someone who's trying to hide, right, they usually duck down. They keep their head low, and that attracts the attention to them. But if they walk with good posture, their head straight up, usually no one notices them.
do you think they don't notice them, or they just don't fuck with them because they look more confident?
A little of both. A little of both. When we're training somebody, and I'm coaching somebody, it's like one of the things I like to bring up with new people is, when you go to work tomorrow, see how many people try and duck, right? Walk around with their head low, so not to be noticed, versus how many people walk straight with their head straight, their shoulders back, and they walk forward. Now, yes, you and I, the Beaveman, have a military background. That's how we were taught to walk, right? But back to also what the Swan says, yeah, I mean, it's basically almost, and it's probably the wrong term, but a predatory move, because you're looking for the weak in the herd. And if they got their heads down low, trying not to be noticed, they're noticeable. But if someone's back and got their shoulders up and their head straight, they tend to blend in really easy. And also probably give that "don't fuck with me" vibe. So that's the way it looks like sometimes.
I would agree. Yeah, I agree. I see the benefits of both, though. Honestly, also,
Right.
I do see the benefit of looking
Weak?
unobtrusive and weak.
Yeah. Like what?
Yeah.
To hide your actual weaponry of
Mm.
what you actually are.
As a technique.
Well,
Yeah.
I would disagree with that, because
Like
if you
Mr. Miyagi looked all weak and vulnerable, but he really wasn't.
yeah, but he
Is that
held
what you're
himself
saying?
with confidence, and in fact, whenever he talked to somebody, he never had held his head low. If you look at that style, right?
True.
And I know it's a movie, but he always had his shoulders back, and he wasn't completely standing up straight. But then again, that was
True, but he
the
still
old,
blended. But
yeah,
he
he
or he
blended.
attempted to blend, kind of like your whole gray man thing, like you talked about
Yeah.
before.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like you could look confident, like someone should not mess with you, but you could also blend. So there's two different, I guess that's kind of what more I'm saying.
I
Speaking of which, where Ronz, you purport to be some sort of a martial artist. I
of
do
course.
not. I have transcended this thought process, and I live a martial way, which is totally different. Martial arts, martial way, two different things. Ronz has not made it there yet, apparently.
What is the
For he is
martial
still,
way?
for he is still braggadociousness. I do have a question for you, though. I
Oh,
had an observation. I had an observation
okay.
today that
I don't
I'd like to
think
discuss
Ronz
with
is
you.
bragging per se. I don't think he's bragging. I just think he wants to share his love for martial arts. I'm going to defend you for a minute, Ronz.
I appreciate that.
Mark it down.
I
I
am.
I also do not think that the Ronz is bragging, but it's far more fun for me for the show purposes, Swan, for
Of
me to
I
make fun
course.
of
know, I know, I
Ronz,
know.
as opposed to say that he's not bragging.
Yes, I
No,
know.
no.
So
Okay.
if you understood the format of the show, you would know that I cannot give Ronz too much credit on the show. Only hear snippets there, here and there, where so people will realize that yes, it is a persona and it's not a real personalities.
I
Yes.
appreciate that, though. Yeah. So what's your question, Pete, man?
Having said that, the Ronz, as a martial artist of the karate, also known as the style of empty hand, and yours is COVID te, style of the COVID hand, empty or otherwise.
Of course.
What is your definition of proper foot form? I'm just curious.
Oh, I've just been busted on this, right?
Fascinating. Why? Who has busted you on foot form?
Several people, right?
Several people. Fascinating.
And
What was the busting upon? What were the conditions thereof?
my back foot not being completely straight or straight enough, and my front foot not being angled out sometimes.
He's
Right?
talking
Okay.
foot on the ground.
Right.
Yes,
Like stance.
let
You're
me
talking
clarify that.
stance.
My apologies. Let me clarify. What is your proper foot form, utilizing your foot as a striking surface, and how with the deliverance of your lethal karate kicks?
Oh,
I don't think during my time of doing karate with the Ronz, I was
It's
ever
karate.
shown that.
It's
Actually,
karate.
I don't think it was ever stressed to me anything about foot form there in that art, in that style.
not true.
Ronz, first of all, Ronz.
Okay.
Well, kind of.
Ronz, could you just clarify the pronunciation of karate for us?
I think the way you say it is okay. Really. Right. Karate. It really depends on the dialect you're using and where you're at in the world. I mean, everybody has.
What if you're from America? If you're from America, it's karate.
So everybody's got.
So
their
what
own
you're
way of
saying? So okay. So first of all, Swan has been exposed to the Ronz's form of karate, not his most recent form, which is Corona or COVID-te, or Way of the COVID Hand, for those of you who forgot. And I've trademarked that. Somebody else can use it, by the way. Nobody else can use it. The Rojo is the Swan's word for the dojo, by the way. So, Swan, with your limited exposure, not super limited, but your limited exposure to the Ronz's former martial arts,
yes,
that of what is it? Koboryu? Koboryu?
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Koboryu, whatever. You're saying that you were not taught foot form.
Not like with kick with the ball of your foot. Like that was kick with the ball of your foot. That was like the sokote. Yes, the ball of your foot. But not to the extent that we went over foot form in the other martial art that we...
Not to be confused with COVID-te.
Not
totally different.
Yes. That
Mudafwan.
one, we spent a lot of time on the different ways to properly position your foot for a like front foot kick or a side foot kick or a heel strike kick. Like we spent a lot of more time on that and defining the two.
So what you're saying is the fact that despite the fact that the Ronz is a master of karate.
Yes.
Oh, I wish I was, but I'm not.
He's got a black belt, folks.
Yeah, I do.
You didn't know that.
So you're saying that I should not yell at Ronz about his students' foot form that I observed. Is that what you're saying?
Well, you can yell at him because that's probably what you do. But so Ronz, would you explain how you would teach a student foot form then?
Depending on, usually the basic kicks that we teach is, as the Swan said, was sokote, front foot kick, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's kakato geri, which is a heel kick.
So how do you explain that to teach them, and how do you...
Let me give him two specific kicks that I would like to know what the foot form would be like.
Okay.
Let's say that you're doing just a simple round kick. How would your foot form be for that? And two aspects, which really shouldn't make any difference, shouldn't change it, with shoes on and shoes off. And then the other one would be a side foot kick, and then the other one would be a thrusting back kick or a heel kick. What would you, just go with the first one, the round kick? What would your foot form be? I know this is super interesting for the listeners, but it will lead into me yelling at the Ronz. So please, I will continue now.
Well, if you're going to yell at me,
and that's what everyone wants. My God, everyone wants me to yell at the Ronz. So therefore, I will play. This is fan service. This is what you call fan service.
So you're talking about a Mawashi Geri, like a round.
Look. We all know they're Gary. We all know it's kicks. Okay,
yeah. But and then you're talking.
What does one do with this foot?
So kind of turn your hip over and come down at an angle, right? So when you turn your hip over, you don't, and you...
What is the foot doing, Ronz? What is the fucking foot doing in the kick?
You're actually not kicking with the foot. You're kicking basically with your shin, and you're coming down.
Okay.
Yeah, but what do you do with your foot? Is it floppy? Is your your toes...
Even with that kick, even the kick you're describing right now,
Right.
you are doing something with your foot. This is what people don't understand who are looking at. This is what people don't fucking understand when you're looking at the way of the martial arts, or the way of the warrior, or the way of the spiritual warrior, or this is the difference. This is Swan and this is the Ronz, who are martial artists, and then there's the Beaveman,
who's the martial way,
who lives a life of the way of the warrior, not just Japanese martial arts, but the warrior's way, that of
Bushido.
American. No, because I'm not Japanese.
You don't have to be Japanese.
That of the American warrior, that of descendant of the great knights of Spain, because that's what I'm saying now.
So are you a
descendant of
conquistador?
Spain? I am now a descendant of Spanish knighthood.
Oh, I know what this is. You know what this is, Swan?
What?
This is the an Inquisition, because no one expects the Spanish Inquisition. Oh, hey-oh.
Hey-oh, you can't do that one.
Excuse me, that's exactly what he's doing.
Chivalry. That is the way of the knight, is it not?
Anyway, that's not the Spanish, though. That's
so
more
back
English.
to when you're doing your
the
Mawashi Gary runs. What are you doing with your foot?
The goal is there is a specific purpose or point to all movements inside the body. So therefore, your foot does have something that it is supposed to be doing, even if you are kicking with the shin. That's what I'm saying. There is no movement that is not part of that movement.
Okay.
It's like I yell at people when they do some movement with a weapon with their right hand, but the left hand is down at their side. I'm like, what is your left hand doing? Why is it down at your side? Why is that left hand not floating for some sort of a purpose?
So yeah, I understand what you're saying. You're always doing something completely whole with your body. Nothing is ever static.
So what is the position of the foot then on this particular
pulled back?
Pulled back, like toes pointed, or
not floppy? Yeah, you're not floppy, right?
And are the toes in a neutral position? Are they curled, or are they hyper extended?
Well, I guess also, depending on how you look at the kick, you could actually have your, toes, you could actually pull your foot back too when you do it too. Some people I've seen pull their foot forward, or they pull their back, because you're not really kicking with the foot, you're kicking with the shin in Washigiri, right? So you're coming.
Okay, so
you're angling it
again. So is your foot in a relaxed position? Is it in a flexed position? Is it in a planted position? How is the foot in this position?
It's not in a. Honestly, I never gave it that much thought, and I should now. Is that it's not in this static position? I guess it'd be in a flex position.
So, and this is the difference between being a martial artist and living it in a martial way. Total control of the body is actually what you're going for in this melding of the mind, body, and spirit. So there's one thing to move in a certain way or know the technique. So you know a technique, but the importance is to know what is the importance of the technique and how does your body move through this technique and what is the purpose in general, overall, globally as one unit.
That transcends into I think all martial arts, but
yes. And so then what you're understanding is evolution wise. So if you were to ask me the first year I took any type of martial arts, what was the most important aspect of any style? And I would have said hitting things. That would be what I would say. As I am a 48-year-old man, and I came to this realization
and
many
shout out
years
to
ago.
you, by the way, for a birthday last week. Happy birthday, or happy belated birthday.
Thank you very much. I would say footwork is the most important part. To be technically proficient, I would say footwork, because without footwork, you fall. Doesn't matter how good your technique is, you fall. Whatever. Okay, all encompassing.
And
balance,
that's what Ron was talking about before. Was like about his foot, like stance and balance.
Right.
So yeah,
which is a difference. Well, I'm talking about foot form. So now it's something but now you see the evolution or the expansion of Ronz's mind, because now he understands and he is starting to evolve away from just being some martial artist to living a martial way and understanding that he made a very good statement. He said, you know what? This is something I should be thinking about.
We've seen growth, folks. Ronz is grown right now. Good job, Ronz.
Depends on the style that you're in too, because everybody has. Although the basic kick, front kick, we'll say, or what we call a Mayagiri front kick, is basically the same in different styles. It just depends on how you place it.
True. And then you're going to decide then, am I going to kick with the ball of the foot, or am I going to kick with the heel, or am I going to kick with the whole foot, et cetera, et cetera. But
Exactly.
again, you are looking at the position of not only your foot as one unit, but you're also looking at the position of the toes, because that is something that you can control. So you can control the angle of the foot by utilizing your ankle, but you can also control the toes and where they go by utilizing the flexors and extensors of your toes. So my question to you once again is, now, once again, if you were going to deliver a round kick, let's say you weren't using the shin, but you were using your foot, how would you deliver said kick for your effectiveness and your style for foot form?
We rarely do Mawashi air roundhouse
Step
kick.
away from your own style
Okay, step away from my own
and
stuff.
think as
Okay.
someone who lives a martial way. Get outside of this box.
No, I
and think
understand
to
what
yourself,
you're saying. I know.
what would be the effective way for me to deliver this kick with my foot without damaging myself,
distance.
without damaging my ankle, etc.,
Distance.
etc.?
The answer is distance, right there. Distance.
Well, let's say that you actually have to deliver the kick to your target.
It's still distance, because to order to be an effective kick, I have to know the distance of my target, right?
Yeah, but
So-
we're talking about what are you doing with your foot anatomically, so
For the
that
love
you
of all
don't
that's
injure your
sacred and
foot.
holy,
Are
Ronz,
you gonna
what
hit?
the fuck are you doing with your foot?
Yeah. Are you
Well-
gonna hit with the top of your foot? Are you gonna try to hit with your toes? Are you gonna try to hit with the ball of your foot? Because you can deliver that kick multiple ways.
I agree, but it also depends on how I'm lining up with my target.
Let's say you have the perfect alignment for whatever fucking perfect kick you want to deliver.
Let me get there. Like, if I'm going to kick the Beaveman straight on, I would probably use a front thrust kick, right?
Okay, but I didn't say.
We're talking
for the
about
love
your
of all that's
round
sacred and
kick.
holy,
Hold on.
I said a round kick.
Hold on, I'm getting there, because
Well, we have 3 kicks that I wanted to discuss.
And we
And
haven't
you-
even gotten through one.
yeah,
One of them was
I'm
a
getting
front
there.
kick.
I'm getting there because the Swan brought it up, right? So if I'm going to do a roundhouse kick,
There
I'm
you
going
go.
to
Stay
pull
focused.
back my toes and use the flat top of my foot, right? It's like a hand.
So
right?
he's gonna hit on the dorsal surface of his foot against his metatarsal bones.
So, in other words, at this point, then your toes would actually be in a neutral or curled position.
If I were in another style, yeah, I would. I'd basically come across the target, let's say the face or the rib cage, and try and
Okay,
get.
so for listeners, let's make sure that I've got this right. So for listeners, what I want you to do is I want you to put your hand in front of you so that your thumb is facing your nose and that your palm is facing to the right side of your face and the back of your hand is facing the left side of your face. So your left hand is up. So what the Ronz is saying is, as his kick comes in, you're going to use your right hand for the kick. As his kick comes in, the back of your hand will simulate the back of Ron's foot, and he's going to kick like that. In other words, your palm is your face, and the back of his hand is actually the back of his foot as it hits your face. Is that what you're saying, Ronz?
The top of his foot.
Yeah,
right?
the top of my
The top of his foot
Yes.
is hitting the
Yeah.
person.
Yes.
Whether that's the solar plexus, face, whatever. That's what you're hitting with.
Yeah.
And the toes are in the neutral position. They're not curled and they're not flexed up, correct? That's how you're kicking.
I would probably pull my toes back slightly to make it tighter.
Okay, sure.
So that makes sense a little bit.
That makes sense.
Because you're
So in other words, you are flexing, you are actually strengthening your lower leg by hyper, it's actually extending, not flexing, your toes. You're lifting them up and you're hitting. So that's providing structure to your foot, basically. So
Yeah.
not some neutral slap.
because neutral slap does not flex your calf muscle or any of your muscles in your leg. Neutral makes your rest of your leg that's attached to the top of your foot floppy, which therefore is
Okay.
more apt to injure your foot bones and your leg.
So I would say,
Right?
targeting wise, if you hit somebody in the face, that's a pretty good kick.
Yeah.
Right. If I was going to say maybe hit somebody in the chest or something, I would probably hyperextend my toes so that the ball of my foot hits them.
That's how I would do it too.
Yeah,
That's
that's
how I would
that's
hit
what we coach.
Okay, so we've got that covered. So Ronz is what you're saying is to just have that foot flopping, not tightened or not tensed, doing some sort of ballet tapping motion is not what you would teach your students or expect to see from them, correct?
Not right away, exactly. But
What if they've been doing it for years?
I would ask them where they learn that, and is
What if
it
they said it was you, Ronz? No, just kidding.
No. I would ask where they learned that, and could you demonstrate how effective it is? Right?
And
Now-
I feel like
Sure.
in your style runs, we don't do that kick very often, to be honest.
We
It's
don't.
done in like forms or kata as a pretty motion, but even
Well-
then you shouldn't have your foot being floppy. But as far as
No, we
kicking
shouldn't. No,
something,
no,
we don't
you're right.
usually do that kick.
Most Japanese
No, and Ron's is doing even though it's not one of the four
Basic,
founding
traditional.
Japanese
Yeah.
or Okinawa. Sorry, not Japanese, because Japanese karate's not Japanese. It's Okinawan. Sorry. Main styles. He very traditional. So a front kick, as Ronz is talking about, is a very effective kick if delivered properly. I mean, really, what else do you need in your bag of tricks? That's a pretty effective kick,
Right.
basically. And most kicks in the Japanese style are pretty low. So if I'm going to kick, right, let's say a roundhouse kick, I'm not going to try and aim for the face, even though I would probably try. But if I'm going to do a roundhouse kick, I'm probably going to keep it pretty low, try and go for the target, probably either the rib cage or the knees. Right?
Sure, I mean that's basically pretty traditional with Okinawan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's move on then. If you were going to deliver different type of kick here. Now, if you were going to deliver a side foot kick.
Okay.
How would you expect your foot to be? Does your style do side foot kicks?
Not really. Not really. Now, my
Okay,
old
but
style.
how would you expect the foot to be on that?
So even if you draw from your old style.
Yeah, that's where I was going. My old style is I would set you up and then I would probably chamber my foot or chamber my leg and then move in and basically
Specifically though, what
and
is
then
your
the
foot form
surface,
for that
what
kick?
what surface are you kicking
I
with
would
and
put
how are
my
you
foot
holding your
back
foot?
so it would look like that, and I would probably go in with my heel or the ball. So it would look like that.
The ball or the knife?
The ball and the heel.
So see, I don't think they do a knife edge type of kick.
No, we do side kicks in the style that we're in, but we use the sokoto, the knife edge of the foot, right? So we come in under the rib cage, kind of trying to break the rib cage or push it away, or we come to the side of the leg and break the knee, right?
Well, the knife edge that we're talking about encompasses the heel also. So if you were going to kick again, if you're doing a side foot kick, where are your toes positioned? Is it in the neutral? Is it in the curled?
they're pulled
Do
back.
you not care, or are they up? Basically,
they're
hyper
up.
extended.
They're up,
and then you're kicking. Boom.
No, I wouldn't.
Okay, so now listeners, this time because I know you're all interested because you're all martial artists and karate people and all that good fun stuff. If you take your left hand with the palm facing you, okay, simulating your target, and you take your right hand and you've got the palm facing down, the back of your hand facing up, and you angle the meaty part of your hand along your pinky and then lift your fingers up and you strike the palm. That's what we're talking about as it's simulated of your foot. Is that correct, Ronz?
Yeah, pretty much in this style.
Okay. So it would not just be this foot down, toes kind of dangling,
floppy.
Hey.
Yeah, no. So in the Japanese style, in the Korean style, you angle the foot back so you get more of a broad surface to kick. All right, so you actually use the almost the entire bottom of your foot surface to kick through your target. And I would also say that in the Japanese styles too, right? It depends on how you look and angle in your target once again.
All right. So what if I'm thrusting a kick right behind me?
Okay. And
foot form wise, what would you do for that one?
So I don't know if this is the technical term, but it was called what? Some styles or some places call that like a donkey kick because you're kicking up behind you like a horse, right? Is it effective? I don't know. I've never seen it done.
It actually is very effective. It is very effective because you can drop somebody very quickly with that kick.
You'll have to find that video.
I'll actually show you, Al. I'll show you a video of it.
Because it was pretty funny where you did the kick to our old former instructor wearing pads and like you could move like or he would kick you and you would move like multiple feet back. It's crazy.
Well, I threw myself back
Yeah.
because I didn't want to take the actual
impact,
brunt of going
yeah.
forward. Because it is a pretty devastating kick, and you don't have to chamber it either. You literally lift it from the ground. You can chamber it if you want, but it takes to my opinion, it takes too long to chamber it.
Okay.
It's basically just lift it. So instead of having a high knee or your knees being up high, they actually stay low the whole time. You just thrust from the ground. But again, what would your foot position be?
Ooh, that's a good question.
So I guess my question is always, whenever you're delivering these kicks, and it's really important because I saw one of your students, Ronz, and I had to correct him on his foot form.
Right.
And I told him, I said, "Don't you worry, young man. I will discuss this with your senpai, and I will hold him accountable for your poor foot form, for your training that is clearly a direct reflection of your senpai.
A reflection.
Don't you worry, don't you worry, young student. I will take care of this for you."
So
whether audibly on a podcast or if I must correct him in the dojo, old school style.
Old school style. Well, depending on how old the individual was and the belt color.
Old enough to know better and been in martial arts for a long time.
A long time. And we're going to lay this at my feet then.
Yes.
Because
you're a reflection, top down
I
from
think,
the top.
In my opinion, if you think of the style of which we are speaking, there's only one name that comes to mind. Out of every practitioner in modern times, who is more well known for this style than the Ronz? If nothing else, I have made him the ambassador of this style. Have we not?
We have.
I think that it's very possible that you could be the most famous practitioner of Kobo-Yu in modern day.
I don't think that's a good idea.
I think it's true.
I
think that there are more countries in this world that know of you as a practitioner of that style than any other practitioner of it that is living and walking in this modern day.
I'm just a humble student just trying to make my way in the world. And
but you have the most publicity.
Well, I appreciate that. Right. I really do. But I am just.
And so therefore you are held accountable for this young student of the martial arts.
Everybody has bad weeks. Everybody has bad days. I mean, I really wish I could always be spot on when I practice, but I don't. I'm not. Right. Even my blocks were sloppy this week, and they should have been better.
Is it because you had a burger in one hand?
It would have been that, but I do not have a burger. I mean, I think when we practice, sometimes we forget that we're practicing air. So I had someone punch at me, right, a couple of times, right, just to get my blocks up, and I figured that's pretty neat. I mean, if we block, and that's one of those things, or we practice something, sometimes it takes a partner to perfect those motions.
Oh, yeah, obviously. I agree.
Totally. Did you block with your face today?
Yeah, I did. Can't
good
you
job.
tell how good looking?
Good job.
So when we just do it over and over and over with the air, we get sloppy, or at least I get sloppy, right? And I got called out on it, and I want to get better. It's sort of like my blocks in Okinawan weapons. It's like, you just go through the motions. That's one thing, but when someone swings at you and you don't block properly, you're going to get hit. And I told my partner. I told my partner this week.
Sometimes you drop a size, stick it in the dojo floor.
Yeah. I told my partner when I was getting my blocks better in Kabuto, because I went to the dojo just to get more practice and correct my form. I said, swing at me, right? And I said, if I get hit, it's my fault. So my partner took her bow and swung at me, and I'm like, okay, how am I doing this block wrong?
And he broke it, just blocked it,
and worked with me, and
snapped it. It's like, ah, and it exploded.
I really wish that were the case. No, but they worked on me, and they said, okay, this is what you really need to do, instead of just going through the motion. And I agree. Just going through the motions just sometimes doesn't do it, at least not for me. And if I know someone's going to try and hit me, I'm going to block. So I just sat there and was like, try and hit me. And
try and hit me, bro. See what happens.
Try and hit me, bro.
Yeah, come at me, bro. And I had another partner on my other side swing at me. So when I got done with one side, I would do a turn and come into that. And I'm like, how did that look? Okay, you need to get your elbow out. You need to extend out just a little bit more. You're stopping it, but I can still hit you if I try. So I said, try harder hitting me. So keep it up. So when we're just practicing with air, it's one thing. But if someone's actually going to come at you and you want the technique to look good as well as be effective, that works even better. So to say I'm an ambassador of my style, you can pick somebody so much better than me.
Oh no, I believe that's not true. For who else as well known as you?
It's
thousands of people have heard your voice, Ronz.
Oh, I appreciate that. I really do. But it's sort
so
of like
who is the best ambassador? I say.
Maybe not the best, but the best ambassador.
Who's
the most
your
well
style
known
again? Ronz, what is your style again? So for the listeners out there.
Kobuyu karate.
Yeah, so Kobuyu karate.
It's a fledgling style.
Synonymous. It should be synonymous now. There should be a wiki page that specifically, when you type that in, Ronz should be the first thing that you see.
Please,
actually,
no.
we could do that. We could actually do that, Ronz.
No.
You can fuck with wiki as much as you want. You just have to somebody else to come along and try to correct it.
I don't need that. I mean, the Swans if you want to see a really good technique, the Swans.
We've already heard this story a bunch of times.
Yeah,
that's not even fair.
But if it makes you feel better, Ronz, as I said before, the Ronz of Mudakwon Tang Sudo is Swan.
It's true. It's true.
So yeah.
So see, I'm following in your footsteps, Ronz. Because I highly value you as an ambassador.
What I haven't heard yet, though, is the apology, Ronz, for the terrible foot form that you've taught this student.
How do you know it was me that taught him?
But you are taking credit for it from top down.
You are the ambassador. You are the face of Kobuyu Karate. That is you. Is there anyone more well known?
You know what? I am not the face of Kobuyu Karate. I'm a practitioner.
You know what? Other than
technique is a reflection.
You know what?
Other than the pedophile of your style, who else is more well known than you?
Don't even mention that word. No, there's a lot of bad people out there. There really is that.
We weren't referring to you.
God,
Of course we're not referring to him.
I'm just kidding.
Don't even say that. But when it comes down to it, I feel, and I don't know about you, Beaveman, but I feel responsible for my co-highs if they don't do well.
So see there, he is taking responsibility.
So you are responsible. So I would like you to apologize then for this student's foot form.
Has that student progressed though?
Well, let me tell you what happened.
Okay.
We were working outside today, as we do, and we have since the beginning of the pandemic. Our style has continued, but we work outside in the elements, and we've just been doing weapons work, which is not that much fun even though it is a part of our style, it's not that much fun for practitioners of our particular style of jiu-jitsu, but we've been doing it, utilizing the bow, the Rokoshaku bow, the 6-foot stick, and there is a form that we've been doing that was clearly written by an American who, I'm not going to say too much other than it's a form, okay? So you pull it apart, you mess with it, you see the practical applications of it. That's what we've been doing. And this is what practitioners of a martial way of life do, Ronz. They don't just do the form. They pull it apart and try to understand it.
I agree.
Form, 1 year, perhaps. I think that I would like to do that sometime. If I found the right form, I would do that. An experiment that this guy did before, too. I think that it would be a fun experiment.
But I noticed his kick into everything, though. But I noticed continue.
I noticed his kick and his foot form, Ronz, and I was not happy with it. I was not happy. So I came up to this young man and I said, "Show me your kick." And he did the kick. I'm like, "Show me again." I had him show me more than once to make sure that I was understanding his kick. And I said, I corrected his foot form. Let's see your foot form. So that I actually had to move his foot to show him the proper foot form. And it was as if he was touched by God, Ronz. This light, this aura came over this young man. It was like he saw for the first time. It was like he saw for the first time, Ronz, and realized that there's a way to deliver not only a kick, but a proper kick, utilizing the proper form of your foot and realizing that it's not just this one piece, all these separate pieces moving. It is one entity, making sure that there is a movement, a structure in place. And I asked this young man, who taught you this pathetic foot form? Where does it come from? It
He said
comes
Ronz.
from his style. And who do I equate to his style? I said to this young man, worry not, young grasshopper. For the Beaveman will rectify this situation.
So
He will discuss
I
this
have a
foot
question.
form with the person that he equates this style with. For when you hear Kobo-yu, karate, I think of only one thing, and what all people of the world should think. They should only think of the Ronz as the
No,
representative,
don't,
or
please don't.
the living
But
embodiment of Kobo-yu karate.
no, I am not the living
Or at least
embodiment.
Kovite. I
So,
mean, different that one.
so when you do the kick for you, is it a different structure of the kick versus the way we do it? So that so that could be the difference right
The
there.
importance is the foot form.
Floppy ass, uncoordinated foot form. Is that your style?
This was in this particular form that we're doing with the Rokoshakubo. The kick that is delivered can be done of one of two ways. It can be done as a rear thrust foot kick or as a side foot kick, depending on which one you're comfortable with doing, which one that you feel kind of suits you best. I do the side foot kick for it myself personally because I like to try to make it look kind of like wushu like. So, but most people don't. They kind of do it. They kind of do it as a rear foot kick. But the important thing was what?
Do you bring in your Korean style? Do you bring in your Korean style versus your Japanese style?
There is only
so when
one
you do
style.
a side kick.
This is what this is the difference between living as a martial artist, learning a style, and a practitioner of a martial way of life, Ronz. For if your particular kick is super effective, but it breaks your toes, although the kick may be effective, there was an issue with the actual form of your foot. And therefore, there's importance evolution that must happen. There, you must look at your style and how it's evolved. You're the founder of your style, your Kaicho or whatever you guys call him. Notice how he, over the past few years, has evolved some things. Have you not noticed that? I mean, you guys changed some things.
Like
because
the kata's changed
because he recognized it and clearly he saw maybe he saw a better way of doing it or whatever. This is not a common, I would say, at least in my experience, that's not a common finding. So in other words, your guy, who's, even though he's old, recognizes that maybe there's a certain way that maybe things should be done more effectively, and he did it. You don't always see that. A lot of times you'll see where they just stay and said, like, this is cookie cutter way, this is how we're going to do it. Whereas you must look at it as an ever-evolving thing, a living, breathing entity. So therefore, when you ask if that is that how you would deliver the kick in your style, or are you bringing a Korean kick into it? The answer, I guess I would give you, is that I am kicking most effectively based on the kick itself.
Okay. However, back to what you were saying, is that the kick in your style that they want to see. Remember, even though you mentioned that the kick or the style evolves, there is still that traditional way of showing it. So you're showing it the way you want it portrayed, but is it showing it to the traditional way of doing it?
Well, see, that's the difference, though. The difference between your style that is a cookie cutter style, even though and that's no offense to it.
I would say
no offense to it. I mean, I like the way. I mean, you guys have a good structure.
I would say our style has really evolved.
Well, that's what I said. But it's still you guys evolve, and then you cookie cutter it, and then if there needs to be an evolution, your guy he's evolving it. And I said that's great. That's a good thing.
That's a good thing because when you look at everybody's kata, it looks the same.
I think all styles are like that.
No.
No. Well, no. Back to the cookie cutter form. Right, they really do that, and then you've got a few great practitioners like the head of our style, Kincho Kaicho Takashi, really great guy. Right, I was,
but not the representative of your style.
No,
I mean he may be the head of it, but worldwide representation. I mean that's you, Ronz.
It's him. No, it's not. But like you mentioned, that there are other styles who go and evolve the motions. So I tend to agree with where you're going with this, right?
That it's your fault.
Evolution, I think, Funakoshi,
Yeah, it's Ron's
Funako-
fault. Just own it, Ronz. Just own the fucked up sloppy kick.
yeah, I'll do that. I'll feel responsible for the kohai, as we call it, and I now will.
That's probably the better way to not get fucked with. Just own it, Ronz.
Well, the thing is, do you really, does anybody ever take responsibility for a sloppy kick being handed down? And yeah, they do.
Yes,
They do.
in this respect, yes, because it's fun for our podcast. So yes, I
Oh
will
yeah,
blame you for his kick.
so yeah, it's my fault. I'll go with that route.
I actually find it interesting though, and what I should have really asked him was, because he's young and he's just a fun kid to work out with anyway. He's grown so much. It's he still cracks me up. I don't know if he realizes he's funny, but he cracks me up anyway. Very humble. And no, he did not dime you out. I'm just lying. He didn't dime you out at all. But I think actually that you
Time
can
me out.
see that
You've been
he has
listening to
grown
Swan on Thug Lives.
that he has grown as a person because he actually did start to think about what I said. He's like, huh, interesting. So he clearly has that mindset from his father. And his father said, he's like, you know what? I'm glad you said something because this is something that I wanted to harp on, but I don't. And I can understand why he doesn't because he's not going to listen anyways, his dad. But what I should have asked him was, and I don't think I asked him this or not. I don't remember asking him this, but I should have asked him. I mean, I kind of did obnoxiously. I'm like, is that what they taught you? Is that the foot form that they taught you? But what I should have said was, did they teach you foot form?
Yeah,
That's what I should
I
have
was gonna
said.
say that's the better question, is that he probably was never taught, and not that he was never taught foot form, but he was just taught to say, they say kick with the ball of your foot, but not actually how to make that proper form and why it's important to make it strong and proper instead of loose and floppy anatomically to prevent injury or to have a better, stronger kick.
You bring up the anatomy of the kick, but did you bring up the anatomy of the person throwing the kick? And if it's the same kid I'm thinking of that you were training with, because you mentioned his dad, and there's only a couple of people who train with their fathers, right? I remember this kid, right, going from maybe 4 foot to 5 foot to almost 6 foot, basically overnight. And so while the the basic kick was there, the structure of the kick did not keep up with his ever growing body. And you
Yeah,
see
you're
that a
definitely
lot.
thinking of the wrong kid.
Okay. But we see
But that's
that a
okay.
lot too.
But yeah, but I understand what you're saying. But the other point that I was trying to hit across also is, I think that part of it is now knowing that you guys don't actually teach foot form, really, basically,
we
is what
do
I'm getting.
teach foot form. We do
Okay,
teach
so
foot
now
form.
I really need to yell. Now I really need to yell at you then because he didn't know it. The
But
other thing is
not
the other important thing is,
hold on. I remember training with one of your students, right?
and they
And
broke you.
when we
Sorry,
were
I
no,
apologize.
they didn't. No, that's okay. They
I
didn't break me.
apologize, and I will thank them later.
But when we went into doing certain stances, the individual says, and they were already a black belt, and they said, "Wow, this is going to get a little too." They got to get used to it because you guys use a wider base stance than what we do. Right? We use basically through our center, right? And our stances are geared towards our style, and you have a stance that was geared towards your style. So to stand in, come in for a couple of classes, participate, and try and restructure yourself was, that could be the difficulty there.
Well, I think if I know who you're talking about, that would be, I could understand
You
why
don't know
he would.
him. That person was from Canada. I met him at summer camp.
Oh, okay, I think I would know what you're talking about. But however, our stance is not a wider base stance than your stance. It depends on who's doing it. If they think that they're wider than they actually are, the difference between your stance
I'm
and
a
our
little
stance,
fuzzy on the terms,
the difference between your stance and
but the
our
stance
stance,
was different.
from a very basically, is actually not the actual width of the stance itself, but the position of where the toes point. really. And the other thing that I was trying to bring up also was that it's very important. Not only is it important for him to know that the importance of the foot form, but I think that part of it is the fact that he was wearing shoes also. And what's really important to know, this may seem boring to everybody, but it's really not. It's kind of interesting, is that your foot should still take on the same form in your shoes. So in other words, if I go to kick somebody with my shoes on, even though you
That's
might not
interesting.
be able to tell, I'm still kicking with the same part of it I would have kicked without shoes, and my toes are still also up inside my shoes. You may not be able to see it. Well, you can probably see it a little bit, but you can totally tell when people kick with their shoes on as opposed to when they're not on, that they're not practicing foot form at all. And I think that's part of it, is that you have this false sense that your shoes are somehow armoring you and you don't have to protect your joints, but you really do.
Well, and I think part of that, like Ron said before, is like going back to when he was using the bow and practicing his technique, is you do spend a lot of time kicking the air. And if it's sloppy and not proper foot form, it doesn't really matter if you're kicking the air. If you actually kicked something, whether it's a person or a bag or whatever, and you broke your fucking toes, you're gonna change that foot form really quick.
I agree. And I apologize for the student. If I've ever met him and ever trained him, I'll take responsibility for it.
Wait a
Since you
minute.
live at the dojo, there's pretty
Okay,
damn sure chance that you have met him.
I just wanted to clarify. Are you saying that you're apologizing for the student, or you're apologizing for the student? In other words, you're giving us an apology because of how he has
You know
been
what?
trained.
We'll call it a blanket. We'll call it a blanket statement. I apologize for everything.
Then your apology means
representative.
nothing, Ronz.
Well, as the worldwide representative,
don't say that.
as a worldwide representative of Kobryu Karate,
in so much trouble.
Ronz is going to be punished really bad the next time he goes to the Rojo.
How can the Ronz be punished for the Beaveman giving him said title?
I don't know.
I mean,
that's for another podcast. But believe it or not, Carrie and I were discussing that particular instance is how you set the example in and out of environments. So you are constantly being judged, right?
You as a blanket statement, or the Beaveman?
No, everybody, right? So when you mention, your style, they constantly judge you, right? And even though we talk about this in humorous, they will always look at you like, oh, there he goes. That's the Ronz. He can't kick or punch that well. Or he had a bad week and his blocks were off, right? So he's a poor example of our style. Or there goes the Beaveman. Oh, look at him. He's punching. And it could be the exact same punch you've done 100 times, but it's that one time where it's sloppy and someone catches you and it's like, well, he's a poor example of our style, right? That's not real. You set the example no matter where you go, and you've always got to be spot on. So when you go, you're a representative, I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm not the best example, right? And that's kind of, it's kind of upsetting sometimes when you go out and you want to spread the word of whatever style you're in, but everybody thinks you're just a bad example and they kind of avoid it. Right. And
yes,
that's in and out.
But again, that goes back to the misunderstanding of what it is to practice in the first place. Because even if you are a black belt in your style, which you are, that doesn't mean that you're going to go out and, beat up Conor McGregor because you're so awesome because you're a black belt. That means that you are a good student and you have checked all the blocks.
Would hand me my ass.
That's what I'm saying. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's a misconception among Americans are like, oh, he's a black belt, he's badass. No, that means that I'm a good student and I stuck with it. I understand the style. I'm learning more and more, and that's what that means. So that's in a way, that's still the same thing where I kind of like the belt system is like, who cares about the belt system? You know what I mean?
And
belt hold up pants.
Honestly,
basically.
I should adopt that attitude. I really do, because it is what it is. Going through the belt structure, when someone wanted my belt, I would take it off on my old style and hand them my belt, and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I would say, it's nothing more to hold up my pants. If you want my belt rank, here it is, right? And they're like, "Really?" I'm like, "Yeah, I can go out and get another one, or I can earn it again." But if you want my belt, the way I got it is you work at it hard. You'll have good days and bad days, even worse days, right? I remember one of the people I was training with he berated me, fucking berated me to a point where,
It's on a daily basis for you,
yeah,
for
it is.
sure.
But when
Nice.
you berate somebody, it really puts everything in perspective that, do I really want to continue down this path? And the only thing you can do is overcome that demon, right? And to this day, when he said I would never get my black belt, I really wanted to call him up and say, hey, guess what? I have a black belt in 2 styles now, right? Although I'm not that good at days, and there's some days I'm better than others, I've got my black belts. And just recently, I had some really bad days where I was just constantly, hammered. And,
I think that's part of getting better, though, Ronz. Like, even if you're,
yeah, you could be right, but there comes a point where, I don't think I ever saw the Beaveman style just yell out anything, whatever they were approached. I don't think anybody took
Yell out what? What do you mean? Yell out what? What do you mean?
yell out anything.
Like
I'll just
berate
put it,
somebody for how much they suck?
yeah. Or
Yeah, we don't do
I
that.
don't
no,
think they
they do
ever.
it more psychologically fucked up. They're like, yeah, that was pretty good, but we're gonna try it this way instead. Like, that's basically psychologically fucking with you even more. Like, dude, you suck
No,
ass,
that what they're
and
doing is they're being empathetic for you, right? Versus just coming out and telling you suck. They're being empathetic because you can do better. And it's sort of like if I saw a technique that the Beaveman did and then I posted it online, I'm like, oh, what's wrong with this technique? I wouldn't, that's basically shaming him and saying, well, he can do better if he sees that online and where he's screwing up, versus taking him aside and saying, hey, I took this picture, and if you notice where you should be versus where you need to be, that's a little bit different. So you're putting it out there for everybody to basically berate somebody again. Now, is that the right way? In some ways, yeah. I mean, if you're going to be a militaristic style, that can be that's good, because that's how we were trained sometimes, right? When we went through the military, first 6-8 weeks, you were constantly on a schedule. You didn't dare screw up. You had to run, you had to do push-ups, you had to do stuff. And then you go to the civilian world, and it's completely different. But I'm more empathetic and sympathetic versus that way. Now, I'm not saying that technique doesn't work. You're right. I will get better, right? I'll work at it to get better. But I don't think I would subject that to somebody else. And if I've done that, I think I deserve to be put in my place. I need to be put
So
in
what you're
check.
saying is you're
I
not a
guess it's
dick.
No, I am. When I train, sometimes I am a dick. However, I
Yeah,
need to be put in my
I don't
place
think that's
sometimes.
true.
No,
Your
I am.
definition of being a dick is not really being a dick.
You know,
I have
I,
seen. I will say this though. When you say that we don't yell at each other and say how you fuck that up, which happens to your guys' side a lot. We do hear them say that stuff. No, Swan is right. What happens on our side is more psychological.
it's like
It's more like
mental.
if you talk, I don't think there's any of us, even the person who teaches us, that thinks they're good at the style. Even even the one who's our head of it, he'll tell you, he's like, I'm pretty competent. And we actually don't need each other to say, hey, that sucked. We beat ourselves up so much about it on our own that most of the time what happens is we beat ourselves up about how bad we are, and the person we're with is like, dude, that wasn't that bad. It could have been this could have
yeah.
been better. We actually have to encourage each other more, because I actually took Tang Sudo with the Swan and the daughter because it was something that had steps to it that I knew I could achieve and could actually see progress with and feel good about getting better at, as opposed to my style, where it seems like it's impossible to ever be really good at it. Because when you see somebody who's actually
Yeah.
really good at it, it's almost mystical, to the point you're like, how the fuck did they do that?
Yeah, when you
And
watch like videos of it, they're down on the ground, but it doesn't look like you moved anything or had to struggle or like use force at all. And that's kind of cool.
Well, it takes me back to what I said earlier, and I won't mention the story in detail, but the technique you did, nearly pushing my wife into a glass mirror behind her. Your technique was flawless. I mean, I've never seen or since seen something that good, right? Pretty close to it, but your technique was just good because when she went flying about 300 feet back, rolling into the mirror almost, we all took a step back and like, whoa.
That's
And
chi.
you're like, what did I do?
She threw a chi
It was
ball.
like the perfect balance of yeah.
Everything was great, right? And back to what the B-man said, I remember watching one of your students or co-highs, will say, test for his black belt. I got to witness that early on, and your grandmaster or whoever came up to watch it, and he said, "Can you explain this motion? What you're doing?" And he says, "It was a roll. He had to jump over somebody, tuck over, and roll." He says, "Yeah, that's it. Now, why don't you give me 10 good more ones versus the ones you were just doing?" And I'm paraphrasing, but it sounded like what he said was, "Give me 10 good ones now that you understand what you're doing." And I was taken aback, and
Like
this
he
guy,
just told him he sucks without telling him he sucks, which is like awful.
well, it told him that he knew the technique. Could he show the technique a little bit more properly? Right. And and he was soft spoken about it too. It was just awesome just to watch him. Right. That's when I think everybody came up for this guy's test.
Yeah,
Right.
and that's where you die a little bit inside.
Oh, I agree. I agree.
I think I know who you're talking about. My 2 tests that I did, it's always been disappointing to me because he was not able to come for either one of my tests because I really wanted him to come. And the one, I think the first
I
one,
was there for both.
there was a bad
They did
snowstorm, so he couldn't, and he was planning on coming, but he didn't come. And now, if I ever have another test, which I don't think I ever will, but if I ever do, his health is pretty bad. I'm sure he's not going to be coming anymore. But yeah, but you do die. I mean, you die a little inside. I have this running joke with, my sensei is that, in all the years that I've been doing it, I think he's complimented me 5 times. So I'm like, I'm going to start writing them down. But, but that actually makes the
But
practitioner.
he'll compliment you when you're not there. Like, so, and he does that.
Like your mother.
I think
He's
just
like
to
my
fuck with you.
mother.
Yeah. Like he brags up about you when you're not there, but not to your face. That's part of like, you just have to earn that somehow. You're always looking for it. You're like the child that wants to earn the respect.
Well, harken back to the military. The military won't tell you when you've done good. When you screw up, though, they're on your ass.
Well, because that theory, and this was my first team leader told me that too. He's like, that was the theory. He's like, I'm not going to reward you for doing your job. You would have to do something well beyond, go above and beyond to be rewarded or say, hey, great job. Which is fine, whatever. But no, I just think
everybody should get a trophy.
This isn't about a
Ronz as the expert and spokesman of Koboryu Karate.
I am not an expert
here globally.
Or
you know what we should do, Ronz? This is one of my dreams. One of those things that, how you have your bucket list of things that you really want. I really hope someone starts a wiki page about our podcast someday, because that would be, to me, that would be the coolest thing. I think that would be the sweetest.
Okay.
And incidentally, let me, one more thing I wanted to say is now that Ronz has apologized for his poor teaching techniques.
And my poor teaching and my poor
practitioning.
Yeah.
Let me also say this, Ronz. Should I find out that you have corrected this young person in a negative way, you will suffer the consequences. You will suffer.
Well, since I don't take your style, and I thought about showing
this is not necessary for you to suffer. I'll throw a chi ball right at you.
A chi ball, right?
Chi ball. It may look like spooge on toast, but you're getting chi ball.
Gross.
Okay, sounds good. However, I would never.
Ron's like, I'll eat that shit.
Yeah. No, I would never correct another style because I don't know. Now, if I see something wrong?
You're not correcting. Right? I didn't correct another style. I didn't correct another style.
He's just trying to prevent injury.
Is that the foot
from
form,
improper technique?
Trying to make sure his foot form is correct. If you didn't teach him foot form, it's one thing. If you guys don't teach foot
Well, you're
form,
saying
then
I
it's
did,
fine.
so therefore I'm responsible. So I
Well, I mean,
apologize.
like I
No,
said,
you
I
said you
did
did.
say that I did say I would rectify the situation because you are the spokesman for your style. So therefore, you are the global
I am
ambassador. So
not the
therefore, I
spokesman,
have
but
to do it.
yeah,
But now
I
that I
will.
know, then you've made the statement that your style doesn't even teach foot form. Well, then, as a representative of the style,
No,
you've
that's
made this
not true.
blanket
We do teach foot
that you
form.
guys don't teach foot form. Well, then I guess I
Oh
can't blame
no,
you
no,
for it.
no. We do teach foot form. Jeez, you know, you
Ronz
are
is gonna come in with broken toes on Monday.
broken toe, ACL,
Like,
wrist.
I didn't teach you foot form. Kick this
Yeah, you know
baseball
what?
bat.
That's the other thing. It's like someone's going to hear the wrong thing or think the wrong thing, and next thing you know, I'm just
You're gonna kick this brick until you can show me proper foot form.
yeah, yeah.
Hey,
No, I am.
yeah, it's a show, people. These are personas. We are characters. This is for entertainment
Yeah, yeah.
purposes.
That's what they're probably not going to hear the tail end of that statement. They're going to like and then it's just going to cut out. So pretty much, I'm toast.
Well,
Right?
before we sign
I
out today,
cheat toast.
Ronz, did you happen to see my posting of my birthday present? Did you see that?
No, I did not.
You did not see
I
the
did not.
post that
What kind
of
of
the
thong
Warhammer?
did you get?
You didn't see my Warhammer?
No, I did not. I
Really?
did not.
That the
I did
Swan
not.
is the coolest wife ever.
Well, when aren't you the coolest person ever or
Well, you have
wife?
to check it out. Swan got me a
I don't know.
Warhammer for my birthday. I will be smashing something with it
Whoa.
soon. We'll do a video of that. But you didn't see my
What
post. I put it on
is
the
it?
side of the car
Stormbreaker?
that said that basically said because there's a listener, if you're listening, listener of the show, if you're listening to this, he had made a posting that he got all excited about his our niece sticks that came in the mail, and he made a post about that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I made a post about my Warhammer saying, "Oh yeah, cute sticks. This is what a practitioner of L'Art de Armazzare gets excited about," and have my poster and my post of my Warhammer. And I was disappointed he didn't say anything.
Did
Why
you
would
I
he?
tag
thought he would
him?
say something cute. I figured he would say something cute to acknowledge my Warhammer, but he didn't. So whatever. So shout out to you, buddy. You know who you are. You got excited about your sticks, and that's good for you. But I get excited about
So,
swords and spears and warhammers and poleaxes.
so we're so what are you going to do with this hammer? Are you going to sing "Stop Hammer Time"?
I'm going to train with it. What do you think I'm going to do with it? We have techniques for Warhammer poleaxe with our
It's
style.
not like a little. It's not like a fix your wooden nail hammer. It's like a long weapon. You're gonna have to look it up, Ronz.
I'll send you a picture.
You know, I'm going through our Facebook feed and I am not seeing it.
It's on
I
the
am-
Beaveman's personal one, I think.
Oh,
Isn't
it's on
it?
his personal
Yeah.
page.
Yeah, but I put it on there.
I did put something on our page for you though, right?
Your poor
Because
spelling,
you're always
your
on.
spelling errors.
No, the spelling errors because you're always on me about that. So I figured I would do that for you.
I see. Nice job. All
Well,
right, well that's it,
it's
guys.
anything for you.
I think that's it. We've rambled on quite a bit. You know what we should do, Ronz? Honestly,
What's that, sir?
we should just do a whole series of having some guests on to discuss martial arts. As a matter of fact,
Not that I've mentioned that before.
I know one person who said that he would like to do that with us, that he would have some fun doing that. So,
I
and
feel
we've
like
got to
you
do
have
your one
a.
that you want to do on Nightfall. When are you planning on doing your Nightfall? Your one with your lovely wife that has questions for my fellow scholar in the field of
Wow.
battle, the flower of battle. Pay attention, Ronz.
No. Well, you sent me some real. I just got the text of the pictures, and
My anus.
that is
My
just.
anus picture.
Yes.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. That is one heck of a.
Dingleberry.
Yeah, that is one hell of an anus probe. I mean, if you could actually go in there and help Swan remove that grapefruit slice with that thing.
Possibly.
No thanks.
Possibly.
Just poke it.
One more thing. One more thing. Oh, one more thing before we go off. When we were talking last time about wiping and stuff, right after that, I'm not kidding. I was watching TV because I was traveling, and I was watching TV, and there is which one is it with the bears? Is it Charmin or
Charmin.
Cottonelle or
Yeah,
Yep.
Charmin. Yeah.
The bears.
He's like, I got
They
peas.
have one. They have one where the little bear is like rubbing his butt on stuff because he's got itchy butt because he doesn't wipe he doesn't wipe enough. I was like, are you kidding me? They literally have a commercial saying that, you know what? If you don't wipe your butt good enough, that shit is going to make your ass itch. You got to look it up, Ronz. It was hilarious. I was dying. I was like, oh my God, if I'd have known about this commercial for our last podcast. It's good. It's a good one.
Well, yeah. I see where you're coming with. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's it for
that.
me,
Oh,
guys.
yeah.
I nice job. Thanks for joining us. It was a good get together and question. Ronz, I want you to think about when you want to do your Nightfall one. Let's get some martial arts guests on for fun. I think that would be a good time. But they got to be people that are, have a good sense of humor and are willing for us to rib on martial arts in general. And
I mean, and if they
Ronz
don't, who
will
cares?
continue.
It would be kind of funny.
Oh
And
yeah,
they
what
get
are you
all
gonna do?
pissed.
Get mad? What are you gonna do? Get mad?
Well,
Get mad and challenge you to a duel.
That might happen because I do spend time at the dojo.
As I always say, for two people who know me, if you ever challenge me to a duel, if you think that you're going to be challenging me and I'm going to come at you with jujitsu, and it's my preference on what we'll be dueling with, you're in for a major surprise. Because you're probably going to get a warhammer slammed down on your head, or I'm going to come at you with my sword or spear. So, might want to think about that first.
I won't go into. I remember your black belt test for second dan, and I remember the head of your style, good friend of ours, said,
"He's not the head of our style."
I'm glad you. Oh, okay. The representative of your style said, "I'm glad you didn't incorporate the other style when you were doing your techniques."
I was too tired.
So I saw what they put you through.
Tired. I was too tired to do a spinning jump back kick. Sorry.
That would have been
cool. You probably lost like 10 pounds during that test.
Oh yeah,
it was a little rough.
Yeah, it was a little tiring. All right, cool. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. As always, Ronz, thank you for all of your contributions. And thank you for your contributions to the world of martial arts.
I appreciate that. I'm just trying to survive. And in honor of Tremande, deuces.
Bye. From the
Adios,
Swan.
fuckos. Yeah, we know who it is.